Welcome back to Learning Partner. So in this video, we are going to focus on how do we optimize the Angular app, right? So this is not any concept or any topic which is already provided in Angular, but there are some logical way which we use to make our Angular app more optimized, more user-friendly, right? So we are going to see some of the ways in this episode, right? So first is a loader in a table. So if you see, let me discuss what things we are going to see first. So we have to show the loader in the table, then spinner of the save and the save update button. Like if I click on save or update, we don't get to see the process like it is in a process. So we can show some loader over here or spinner. After that, confirmation on delete. On click of delete, we should show some confirmation box like, are you sure want to delete or not? Like that. Then use of Bootstrap Alert. So whenever we save our success, right, we show the normal alert box, JavaScript alert box. Instead of that, you can use Bootstrap Alert Box that is more user friendly because you don't have to click anywhere. It will be visible over here and it will automatically close after some time. Then variable declaration. So whenever we declare the variable, we don't assign any value like it is a private or public. So that is the wrong way. So we can make it public or private like this, private or public, right? So I will tell you about that. Then how you can use class or interface instead of going for the any, right? So you can see I have created object with data type any. Instead of this, I could have created a class or the interface, then I can use it. So my component code will be less and it will be sophisticated, right? After that, use of unsubscribe. So this is kind of an advanced topic, like why and when to use the unsubscribe. You all know the subscribe, just the opposite of that is unsubscribe. And use of a async pipe. This is also very tricky to use and mostly helpful. Okay, so let's get started with. So this is the existing project I have been using. So we will go topic by topic. So first topic is loader in a table. So now let me just implement the ng on init, because API call always should be in the ng on init, not in the constructor. So this API call should always trigger from the ng on init, right? So let me save. Now let me slow the internet speed. We can do that from network, and here you can see no throttling is there. Instead of that, you can select slow 3G. Now if I reload, so now every operation it will take it slow. So we have to wait for some time. I'm trying to show you, like if your internet speed is slow or API is taking so much time to load the data, how does it look and how you should avoid that. Why it is taking so much time. Let me reload again. Let's change the network to slow 3G. Okay, it is taking very slow. Okay, let it be. So if I reload, now API is very fast, so that's why I'm getting the data very fast. But in some cases, API may take some time, right? right? So sorry for the disruption. When the page load, if API is taking so much time, we should show some loader, right? Before API is in progress, and when until when the data is not there, we should show some loader. So for that, let's use the Bootstrap loader. Bootstrap 5. Right, this we can use. So let's copy this. Now, where do we have to show the loader? In the table only. So this heading should be fixed, but inside here, unless we don't have the data, we should show the loader. So for that, let's go to the HTML. Now this is my table, right? So here, instead of directly using the TR, we can make use of the ng container. So ng container is like an imaginary div, which we can use to do some kind of operation like this. Ng container again, one more ng container. Now, here I will put my loader. So we are saying the first thing, how do we show the loader in the table? So for this, we have to create one variable is table loader colon boolean, and let's make it true by default, right? So now this variable I will be using over here on this ng container star ng if equal to double quotes this. So this particular container will be visible if this variable is true. If this variable is false, then we have to show our actual TR. So this TR will go inside this ng container. So you can see the code. Means if this particular variable is true, then we will show our loader. But that loader should be, we should all show in the TD. So we have to take TR inside that TD, and we have to give the call span. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Total 8 columns are there. So I will use call span 8. And inside this TD, I should show this. So our table structure will be unified. So you can see the code. We have taken two ng container, first with this variable true, and second with this, sorry, I have to make it false. So actual TR will be visible if this variable get false. And if variable is true, we will show the loader, right? Now, on the page load, we have made this variable true. So let's save and check what it do. So you can see currently loader is only available because we have made this variable true on the page load. When do we have to make it false? Once we have got the data. So that is nothing but get all employee in the subscribe call. So I will add some set timeout here because API time is very fast. So I cannot show you the actual output. So let's just add a set timeout of 2 seconds. And in this set timeout, I'm making that variable false. Right. And on the here also, I will make it false only. I will explain this why again we are making it false. Right. So on the page load, it is true. Again, in the function, I'm making it false. And once I got, again, we have to make it true only. So whenever we are starting the API call, we have to make this variable true. Once we get the response from that API, we are making it false. So now if you see on the page load, we get to say the loader. After 2 seconds, we get to say the data. So this is nothing but loader. Now, first thing, why do I have make to this in the function call as a true again? Because this function call is going to be called once we save the employee. So let's try that. On click of new, let's try Abhi, contact number, email, city, state, pin code, and designation something. Punesh, relation brother, age 23, 12. Right? On click of save, API call is success. Then you can see again loader is visible there because we are making the API call after save and the record is visible over here. So whenever we are making the API call to get the data from the table, right? So we need to make that variable true so that our loader div will be visible. Once we got the data from that API call. Again, in the subscribe call, we have made that variable value as false. Right? So now loader will be hidden and our actual data will be visible. So this is our first point, that is show loader in the table. By using a single variable, we can do that. Right? Now, second thing, button, if spinner on the button, like when we save and the update. Now, if you see on click of new, let me just reload. I have not reset that. Right? Once I click on the save employee, API call is there, but I don't get to see, no, I haven't sent any data. So that might be validation error. If I click on save, right, I'm getting error because I haven't provided the data. So once I click on it, I should see some loader that API call is in progress, because user doesn't know like API call or anything. He doesn't know like I have clicked or not. So he might be clicking multiple times. So see, so many API calls are there, right? So again, we can either, there are two things we are going to do. First, we are going to show the loader and we are going to restrict the multiple API call. If user clicks on the multiple time also now, if one API call is in progress, we should not make another API call. So that is also we are going to restrict. Again, we have to create one more variable, and with that, we are going to handle this. So now I'm going to create one more variable, that is API call in progress colon boolean. By default, it is false, right? So this variable is going to denote like whenever API call is in progress, means for add and update and the delete, we have to make this variable true. And once we get the response, we are going to make it false again, so that we get to know whenever this variable is true, we get to know like some API call is in progress. And if it is false, we are going to know like if no API call is in progress. So this we have to make true on the add employee, save employee. So this is a function. So in here, we have to make this API call as true, right? Whenever we are making the API call, we have to make this variable true. And once we get the response, here we have to make that variable as false. It should be false. Now, so this variable will denote like API call is in progress or not. So I can use this variable on the button click. So in this div, I have the button. Yes. So here you can see I have the save and the update button. So now here I have to insert a spinner. So we are going to use the Bootstrap spinner. So you can see we have some small spinner. Yes. So this I will be using. So you can see this kind of thing. I will use this over here, and this span will be visible if API call is in progress. So how do we know? If this variable is true, we know that API call is in progress. And once we get the response, we are making it false. So if this variable is true, we have to show this spinner. So now same thing, I have to use it on the update employee also. So now let's save and check. Right. So on click of new, let's fill the data. Right. So now just pay the attention. On click of save employee, let me make it slow. So you can see API call is in progress, and if the loader is visible, once I click on OK, that will be hidden, right? Because once in the save call, I have immediately redirected it to the list view, right? So let me comment out this. And here also, let me comment out. Now this thing will go over update also. And once we get the response, I'm going to make it false. Let's save and check again. Right, so let's just add some data. Now, in network, let's make it slow. On click of save, you can see loader is visible. And once the API call is success, we have hide that loader, right? So this is the way how you should do this. But again, we have one more problem. Now just pay attention closely. If I click multiple times, see, so many API calls are there, and it will end because API on the click of directly we have made the API call. So it is going to dump unnecessary data into the table. So we can restrict this by using the same variable. How can? So we just have to add one extra if statement at the top. If this variable is false, means API call is not in progress, right? So I'm adding a false check, and we have to wrap the whole code inside this. What it will does, first it will check, like if this variable is false, then only it will go inside. Let's say an ideal scenario, on the first time the variable is false, so it will go inside. Immediately on the first line, what we are making it true, right? And once we get the response from the API, then only we are making it false. So before that, if anyone clicks again, it won't go inside because this variable value is true. It is not false. So let's say it now. So with the single variable, we have achieved two things. Now just pay attention over here. See, I'm clicking multiple times, but current API call is in progress. So I haven't done anything, right? Second call is not there. So we have restricted our API calls. So this is along with the button, along with the speeder and loader button, we have restrict multiple API call. So again, with the single variable we have achieved this also. So 2 points are done, loader in a table and spinner on the save and the update buttons, right? Next thing is confirmation on the delete. So let me just see the API, or let's just add a delete button. So we have the edit button here. We just need to make a delete button also. So let's just add a delete button. After edit, let's add a delete button. And here we can call a function. So click on delete. And we can pass employee ID or anything what we need to pass to the API. So currently I'm sending employee ID. Let's create this function. API call. Now from front end, we are sending some ID. So we need to catch it over here. So that will be ID colon number. Now from Angular 15, data type is very mandatory, right? So here we need to make the API call. So let me just copy paste the basic code. Now just URL will be changed. Let me see the delete API call. Let it load. In the mock API, delete employee by ID. This is the ID, and it is a get API. This is going to be the URL. So let me just copy paste it. Instead of post, it will be get. We don't need the second object. Instead of hard coded ID1, we have to pass the ID. Whatever the ID, we get it from the front end, right? Now, so this is normal way. On the button click, we have sent the ID, and in the function directly we have make the API call. So let's see. Right, so we get to see the buttons. If I click on the delete record, so this one, if I click on the delete, you can see API call is in there, right? Employee deleted, and it again get all employee call is there in the success of delete. So we can see that record got deleted. But once it can happen, like someone might accidentally click on the delete, but there is no way to stop it. right? So for that, we can make use of the confirm box, right? So that is provided by the JavaScript. So here const is confirm is equal to confirm. This is already provided by the JavaScript, just like the alert box. And here we will show the message. Are you sure want to delete? Right, this is the message I'm going to show. If when we show the confirm box now, it will have two buttons, OK and the cancel. If we press OK, then in here we will get true. So that I'm going to use it over. If it is true only, then only I will make the API call. So this code will go inside this. Right. So now let's check it. Let's see the delete functionality now. So if I click on delete, see, it has asked that pop-up, right? If I say cancel, you can see no API call is there. But if I say delete and if I click on OK, you can see delete API call is there, right? So this is the way how we ask for the confirmation from the user. Let me show you how it works. Let's go. Where is the delete call? Yes. So I'm adding a debugger on line number 97. So I just want to show you like how do you get the value. Like if I'm clicking on cancel, you can see is in confirm. We have got false because user has clicked on the false. Cancel. But if I click on OK, you get true over here. Then we will run the API call. Right. So these are the very simple concept, but it will make your application more user friendly. Because of this alert confirm box, user won't accidentally delete any data. Right. So this covers our third point. Using confirm box. Next thing, so after deletion or after saving, we are showing that confirm alert box. But the problem with the alert box is we have to click on OK. Unnecessary user has to click on OK. Otherwise, we can make use of the Bootstrap alert box. So these are the alerts we have from the Bootstrap. You can see these are the various alert box we have. So you can make use of those. So let's create a reusable component and then we can make use of this. So let me just create a folder. And in this folder, I will create a component. ng generate component alert. Right. So this is just a simple code I have. It will go inside my HTML. And here I have to use on changes. This is a lifecycle event too, which I have to use. Sorry, I forgot the implement. Implement on changes. Right. And here I will create one more variable is alert visible colon boolean and equal to, by default, it will be false. Now, since I have implemented ng on changes, so I have to use on changes event, right? So here I will write if this dot is alert visible is true. Okay, so I have to make this variable as an input. So @ input round bracket, because this is going to be reusable component. So we need to send the flag from the parent component that do you want to show the alert box or not, right? So this is a input variable. Now I have to create one more local variable, show alert colon boolean, by default value will be false. Now on the ng on changes, if this variable is true, I have to make this variable true. And after some time, so let's add a set timeout. Let's say after 2000 seconds, we have to hide that alert box also. So it will be false. right? So let's see now, and the message also we need to send. So again, we are going to need one more input. So message and data type will be string. And this message I will be showing instead of this using interpolation. And this variable, that is show alert, I will use it on this div star ng if equal to double quotes. Right. So I have created a reusable component with two input, right? And whatever the message I will send, that will be displayed over here. And the local variable I have used to show and hide. So let's make use this syntax over here at the top div. So before this, let's add row all 12, and here I will add the my selector of that component, right? So for this component, I have two input. First is message, and second is alert visible. Now I have to create local variables also. Alert message. Data type will be string. By default, it will be initialized to 0. Show alert. Local variable in the parent component. Boolean by default false. Right. So I have created two variables. First is the alert message and second is the show alert. So now I have to provide the value to this variable once I save and the delete and everywhere. So on click of save, once it is saved successfully, and else. So this is a check. Just it is the record is successfully saved or not. Now instead of this alert box, I have to make use of that variable. Alert message is equal to, I will set this like employee created successfully, right? So in this variable, I have set the message and I need to show the that alert box also. So local variable is show alert is equal to true, right? So you can see the message is visible. Now same thing, I have to make it over here also. And message will be whatever the message we get from the API side. So that will go over here, result dot message, right? So just same thing, I can do it for other update and the delete also. So let's click on save and let's check it now. Okay, one more thing, we have created this variable, but we haven't sent that, right? So here we need to pass it, then show alert. This also we need to pass it over here. So let's save and check. Now on click of save, instead of that alert box, we are going to show our alert from the Bootstrap. So let's provide some value. Right now on click of save, you can see box is visible, but it is an error because mobile number were present something. No? So let me show you the API call. So we have got the error. You can see result is false. Mobile number already present, right? So and after this again set timeout we can use. No, why didn't it go to the ng on changes? Let me see why. Is alert visible? It is by default true. Okay, so we need to make it false also after some time. So in set timeout, we need to make this variable false, right? Because otherwise it will be true only. After 2 seconds, I will make this variable false again. So let's click on save and let's check it now. Let's provide the values. right? Now on click of save employee, see alert box is visible and it is hidden also after some time. Let's click on again, save employee, but this mobile number is already present. So you will get some error from the API call. So you can see mobile number is different. So this is also a way how you can show the validate whatever the alert message or the success message you get from the API side. By using alert box, you can see. But the problem over here is for success also we are getting green, and for error also we are getting green. So again, you can add another input and make by using ng class, you can provide the dynamic class to them. So our next point is done. That is, instead of using alert, we can use alert box component. Now, next part is variable declaration. So you must have used private and the public, right? So when to declare variable with the private and when not to declare with the private. So let me show you the example of that. So let's say this variable is show alert. This variable I'm not going to use in the .html. So if you see over here, okay, this variable I'm using. Let's see if any variable which I'm not going to use. Okay, all the variable I'm using. So let's create one more variable. My name colon string is equal to Chetan, right? So I have created one variable. So by default, this variable has an access that is public. By default, this variable is public. If we don't pass anything here, by default, it is public. Public means I can use this variable in the HTML. So let's just provide over here in curly braces, I can print it. Name. Let's save and check. So I haven't provided anything like it is a public or private. So by default, it is public. So if you see now, here I can see the value. But if I make this variable private, let's see what happens now. You can see I have got the error because property my name is private and only accessible within the class. So if you make any variable private, so you can use this variable in .ts only. You cannot use that variable in HTML, right? So if you make it public, then you can use that variable in HTML also. Now it is working fine. So when to use private? Like suppose any variable you have declared for any coding or it can be any purpose. If that variable is not going to be used in the HTML, then you should always declare that variable with private, right? Just keep a habit of while creating variable, just keep in mind like you are going to use this variable in the HTML, then only make it public. Otherwise, always make it private only, because private variable cannot be used in HTML. So it will gives you a sophisticated code, memory location will be less, and the application will be fast enough. Because if you have a large number of components, then these things matter. So whenever you are declaring variable, make sure if you are not going to use that variable in the HTML, make it private, right? Otherwise, you can keep it as a public. So this was the next point, that is variable declaration. Now, next point is why to use class and the interface. So if you can see, I have created object and I have created this object with data type any. But instead of this, I should make a class of it. So in app folder, let me create a folder of class. This is not file. This is employee.ts. Simple .ts file you can create. And here I will create a class, export class, my class name, that is employee. Now, whatever the properties I had or what are the fields I had in this field, I need to declare those into my class. So here I can create those. Let me just remove. We don't need double curly braces over here. Or let me just write it properly. So first property is employee ID. So I have to employee ID colon number semicolon. Then name, like this, I have to create all the properties. Name is going to be string. Then contact number, again, it is string only. Let me just copy paste the remaining thing. Let me remove the double quotes. Now, instead of this, I can just replace it one time. So with colon, string, and semicolon, replace all, right? And the employee relative was array. So I will just simply keep it as any array. But if you can see, I have created a class of these properties. But if I hover on anyone, it is saying like it has no initializer. So we can initialize this property in a constructor. So this is a class. So we can have a constructor, right? So you can see this is nothing but a class. So initialization will be done over here like this with empty. Whatever the fields you have, you can initialize those. Contact number is equal to empty. This dot, you can see errors are going away. Whatever the fields I'm initializing, errors are going away from those fields. I will explain the benefit of this. Just let me complete this. Employee ID with 0, I will be initializing it. Employee mock relatives, it will be empty array. Then name, this dot, pin code, and this dot, lastly state. So what we have did, we have created a class of particular fields, whatever the fields we need to send to that particular API, right? And in the constructor, we have initialized those. Now, we have a class of this particular field. So now instead of using any, we can use our class. So this is nothing but data type of this particular object. Now I need the import also. So let's just add that. Now we need to initialize it also. So we can use it initialize like this. This is a class, so we can create an object of that class like this, right? Now the advantage of it, so if you see, if I try to access any value over here, let me just remove this. Now dot, so you can see it suggests all the value. So you don't have to write it, or you won't be making any spelling mistake because it is already defined over there. So this is how you can do the operations. Now it is called as a strongly typing. Instead of any, you should create a class of those fields, right? So this is how you create a class, initialize the values. Let's say if you don't want to initialize this, what you can do, pin code, there it is. So you can see what I have added, optional parameter. See, if I remove the optional, it will ask for the initialization. But if I make it optional by adding question mark, so it won't ask for the initialization. So if you don't want to initialize the values also, simply just add a question mark over here. That is also fine. Just like this class, we have the interface. Export. Instead of class, you can write interface. Employee list. All the properties, same thing. You can write it over here. Right? But interface doesn't have the constructor, so you just have to initialize all those properties in the component.ts. So you can make use of the interface when you are going to hold the array. So now this very interface, employee list is an interface. I can use it over here on employee list. But if you are going to create an object which is going to be bind to the form, always make use of the class. But when you want to hold the data, you just want to hold the data in some array, so you can make use of the interface. So this was about our class and the interface. Now, subscribe and unsubscribe. This is kind of an interesting topic. Let me just save all and close it, everything. Now, if you can see on the page, how many API calls we have did. This is first. Then get employee. This is also API call we have done. Save employee call is also there. Update employee call also there, and delete also. So we have 7 to 8, 5 to 6 API calls in a one component. So what happens when we do the subscribe? When we do the subscribe, it will keep my memory open. So it will be always consuming the memory because it is constantly subscribing to that particular function, right? It is constantly checking for the latest value when we do the subscribe thing. But this is kind of a memory leak. If you are working in a small project now, these things won't matter. But whenever you are working in a big project, let's say you have 1,000 component, 500 component, then these things will slow down your application, right? So that's why we have a unsubscribe thing. Now, how do we unsubscribe thing? So first we have to create an array of subscription. So over here, I'm creating an array of subscription. My subscription colon subscription. It is going to be array, and I will initialize it with 0, empty array. So I have created an array of subscription, right? So now whenever I'm making the API call now, so I have to push that subscribe call into this subscription array. How do we do that? Let me just format it. So this is my API call. So this dot my subscription dot push and round bracket. So I have to wrap this code inside my subscription thing. Let me just format it again. So what I have did, simple API call, I have put that inside the push of my subscription, right? So just like this, I have to wrap all the API call inside the subscription dot push and again round bracket. On all the API call, I am going to do this. I'm just keeping all my API call code inside the push of my subscription. So what it will create? It will create an array of subscribes. What are the subscription I have done into this component? And it is going to put that into this array. That is my subscription. Like this. Right? Another way to do this is one thing. Either you can, Another way to do this is like you can store whole thing into any constant. Update obj is equal to. So what we have did, we have stored this whole subscription into this variable, and then you can push this variable into my subscription. Anything will work. Either you can store this into any constant and then push it over here, or you can write this inside the push, right? So same thing over here. Constant delete subscription is equal to. Now after the API call, this dot my subscription dot push, and I will pass this constant, right? So now in this subscription, in this my subscription array, we have got what are the subscribe thing we have done. Now, one lifecycle event is there, that is on destroy, right? So on destroy is the lifecycle event which get triggers when we navigate from this component. Means when this component is going to be destroyed, this event will get called. So at the end, we are going to implement that. So that is ng on destroy, right? So here what we need to do, when this component is going to be destroyed, we just need to clear all the subscription. So that is my subscription dot, sorry, this is an array, so we have to use the for loop. So for each on this particular subscription, we have to use the for each. This dot my subscription, and inside this my subscription, we are going to have the subscribe. So element dot unsubscribe. You can see this is what we are going to do. So let me just show you how it will work. Let's click on save all. Let's add also. So we have done two subscription. First was get employee, delete, and the again get employee. Now, if I redirect, see it where it got in the NG on destroy. If you see in the subscription, we have got 3 subscribe, because in the network you can see 3 API calls we have done. So in the my subscription, we have got an array of 3 subscribe. So now it is going to release that memory using unsubscribe. See, okay. So like this, you need to unsubscribe to all the API call you are making. Got it? So this is the mostly interview famous question also, like why do we use, like what is the purpose of NG on destroy and why do we need to unsubscribe? So with this topic, you can answer 2 interview question. So NG on destroy we normally use to unsubscribe the API calls, like whatever the subscription we have did, we can unsubscribe that. Right? Again, I will repeat the step. First, you have to create the object of subscription array. Then wherever we are making the API call, we just need to push it. Either you can do like this, API call, whole API code inside will be the push. Otherwise, you can store it into the constant and then push the constant over here. Anything will. Then we have to implement ng on destroy, that is on destroy. Then we have to implement the ng on destroy method, and here we have to use the for each loop, and we have to unsubscribe from all the subscription. Right? So this was the second last point, that is use of unsubscribe. Now the last point is async pipe. Right? So this is again pipe. So pipe is the easiest topic we have in Angular, but async pipe is a little bit tricky. Now when to use the async pipe? Now, so if you see in the table, we have one data that is employee list. So employee list, this variable, I'm going to use it in the HTML only once. And in the component.ts also, I'm not using it, just declaration and while assignment. So if you are holding some data, I mean, whatever the data you are getting from the API side, and you are not going to use that data anywhere else. So now instead of creating the variable, writing whole this function and storing the variable array into the variable, you can make use of the async pipe. So now how do we do that? Okay. So now instead of normal API, I will make use of the JSON placeholder API, that is /users. So if you see, if I hit this API, I'm going to get the data of array of object. Now I have to bind this to the dropdown. So what I will do, I will create an observable like this with $my users is a colon observable of type any and array. Right. So I'm creating an observable, but it is saying like it needs to initialize. So let's initialize it with empty array. So we are going to use of array.js of, and inside bracket it will initialize with empty. Right. So what I have created an observable. Now in ng on init, what I will do, this dot my user is equal to this dot http dot get, and I will pass my URL. That's it. Okay. Now we have specified the data type like over here. So we just need to provide the data type over here also. So this is the thing we have done. First, we have created an observable. Then in the ng on init, what we have done, to the observable, we have provided the API code. Now, in the HTML, let's show the drop-down somewhere. Above the table, let's try to show the drop-down. Select option. Now, normally we use the for loop like this, *ng for equal to let data of some variable we create, right? And in that variable, we store the array. Now, instead of this variable, we are going to use the observable, that is $myuser. This I will use it over here and pass the pipe that is async. And in here, I will print name data dot name like this. Now let's save and check. Let me just reload once again. Now on the network call, you can see get all employee call is there and user API call is also there. And in the drop down, you get to see whatever the data we have got from this API call. Another way to do this, the normal way. If we don't have created this, what I have to do? Users array :any square bracket is equal to empty. And in the constructor or in ng on init, let's create the load user, this API call, then dot subscribe, the normal way. Result :any. Like this is the normal way. So this dot users array equal to res. Like, so this was the normal way, and I will call that on the page load. So like this. So this was a normal way. We make the API call and we subscribe to that API call, whatever the data we get, store into that variable, and we show the data, right? So, but with this way, we need to unsubscribe also this, just like we have seen. What are the API calls we make? We have to unsubscribe those. But if we don't use this normal way, and instead of this, you make use of the async pipe. So what you have to do? You have to create a variable of observable data type. And in the ng on init, in that observable, you need to store the API call. That's it. You don't need to subscribe. The subscribe thing will happen in the HTML because of the async pipe. So now this async pipe, you can use it in the table also and anywhere. Wherever you need to show the data, right? Using async pipe, where there you can make use of the async pipe. Now when you use the async pipe, you don't have to worry about the unsubscribe thing. So it is automatically will unsubscribe that. Right. So this was the last point which I wanted to show you. So this makes us the end of the video. So what we have seen, showing loader in the table, spinner on the save and the update button, right? With this, we can restrict the multiple API call, confirmation box. Instead of normal alert box, we can use the Bootstrap alert by creating reusable component, then hiding it after some particular time. Then variable declaration, that is when to use private, when not to use private. How to use class and interface instead of any data type. Use of unsubscribe. So you can create an array of subscription, and then in ng on destroy, you can unsubscribe those and use a async pipe. So these are the very normal and the basic some concept which you can use to optimize your Angular app. And this is also mostly important for your interview preparation also, because these are the various logical scenarios any interviewer is going to ask you. If you are providing experience of more than 2 years, anyone will ask you this. So while preparing for the interview, just go around this topic. My videos are there again for the interviews, right? So in the next video, again, I will come up with some more advanced ways how you can optimize your Angular application. Till then, please do like and subscribe my videos. Thank you.